Unreliable rainfall patterns and other adverse effects of climate change threaten livelihoods of many smallholder farmers who constitute 80% of Malawi's population. Coupled with low adoption of modern and sustainable farming technologies, overdependence on traditional crops and unproductive soils, many farming households are unable to sustain themselves from one growing season to the next. The overdependence on maize as a staple food, which has over the decades been badly affected by climatic shocks such as intense droughts and heat, leached soils requiring huge amounts of organic fertilizers, have become commonplace, further challenging the viability of traditional practices for staple food crop production in Malawi, necessitating the need for rigorous research of other cereals, including sorghum, to complement and cushion the country's food security situation. It is out of this background that the Building Capacity for Innovation and Advancement of Climate-Smart Agriculture NORPART project was hatched by one of Malawi's chief agricultural scientists in the Department of Agricultural Research Services in the Ministry of Agriculture, responsible for soils, Dr. Austin Phiri. The project, among others, intends to develop higher education multidisciplinary curriculum in agriculture and economics targeted to build knowledge and scientific capacity for innovation and advancement of climate-smart agriculture in East and Southern Africa through long-term partnerships between and among the Norwegian University of Life Sciences in Kenya, Maseno University, Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, Luana, the Department of Agricultural Research Services in Malawi, and Makerere University in Uganda. Dr. Phiri, a lead scientist in the Improving Sorghum Productivity Project in Malawi, says apart from equipping farmers with technical expertise on improving optimal yield per hectare, the project is also aimed at addressing challenges sorghum farmers in the country face to realize better yields. According to Dr. Phiri, the major challenge affecting sorghum productivity in Malawi, apart from using local varieties with low yields, is the misconception that sorghum is a type of grass that requires no soil fertility management practices to produce.
From that background, we are coming in to say that no, sorghum, like any other crop, requires that soil fertility constraints have to be addressed so that it is able to produce optimally.
Decades of adverse climatic changes have rendered most farmers in Malawi clueless in addressing such constraints, including high leaching levels as well as non-reliable rainfall patterns, forcing the project to encourage farmers to grow drought-tolerant crops such as cowpeas and pigeon peas through a rotational cropping system to help in nourishing the soils.
One of the response that perhaps farmers can consider to use is growing drought-tolerant crops like sorghum. Sorghum does not require a lot of rain for it to produce. But also we recognize that in order to produce optimally, the crop has to be well nourished. And so we using a rotation cropping system, whereby in the first year, we are encouraging farmers to grow drought-tolerant leguminous crops.
One of the project's pillars is to enhance capacity building as well as sharing experiences through extension services. As a result, the project is carried out in collaboration with other government departments and agencies, including the Department of Agriculture Research Services. Senior Deputy Director of Research Services, responsible for the Northern Region, Tony Harris Maulana, challenges farmers to adopt the technologies to improve their yields.
In Malawi, in some places like Chikwawa, Sanje, Mangochi, it's a staple food. But farmers don't relate the soil conditions and the productivity of sorghum because they don't apply fertilizers. They don't apply manure to sorghum. They think it's grass, yes, but it needs to be fed so that it produces more. If you go to Karonga, sorghum will produce more if it's well cared. If farmers emulate what we are doing, I'm sure that Malawi will have good harvest of sorghum.
The project is not only a darling to local farmers, but also a catalyst to improving academic and research standards in some tertiary institutions in Malawi. This is in line with one of its key objectives, which is development of tertiary materials which can respond to the climatic changes through impartation of skills to students. The project contributes to the improvement in quality and internationalization of academic programs through 5 joint courses. 7 PhD students, 2 from each partner university and 1 from NMBU. 14 master's students, 4 from each partner university and 2 from NMBU. And 12 research exchanges, 3 from each partner, are selected to participate in South-South, North-South mobility schemes. The curriculum enhances digital competence of students and faculty, including internationally immobile students, and focuses on the adoption and facilitation of innovation of climate-smart agriculture practices to increase crop livestock integration and productivity. One of the tertiary institutions that have responded to the call is the Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, Luana, where students are undergoing various training programs. Master of Science, Agricultural and Applied Economics Studies students Wiseman Sagacious Banda and Christina Kamange say the project is in line with the country's vision, Malawi 2063.
Many of them, they also didn't know the importance of these climate smart agriculture practices, but we still see that the adoption is very low, which means we need to look at the now to the human part. What are some of the intrinsic factors that can influence them not to adopt or adopt?
So there is need to research more into the factors, for example, that influence farmers to adopt various climate smart agriculture technologies. If we look at sorghum, for example, you notice that not many farmers in Malawi farm sorghum, yet it has its benefits. It has climate smart agriculture benefits in terms of heat and drought resistance, and it also saves 30%, it uses 30% less water compared to other grains. So if we were to look at crops like these are crops that can help us solve some of the challenges that farmers face.
In the view of the development, there is a climate-smart agriculture platform that includes researchers, educators, students, and agricultural stakeholders who engaged in feedback and receive outreach for adopting new proven climate-smart agriculture technologies. Cross-cutting subjects in gender, land tenure, sustainable production, integrated soil fertility management, and economics are delivered through blended joint instruction with the Department of Agriculture Research Services providing research topics to students. The education and research will produce knowledge through feedback and outreach with farmers who are the final beneficiaries of new technologies. Peter Mbogo Fune is a student in effects of nitrogen, phosphorus, and manure application on chlorophyll content and sorghum yield in the Pigeon Pea Cowpea intercrop sorghum rotation at the Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources.
I'm looking at the soil fertility, varying nitrogen as well as phosphorus to look into which one could be much more optimal in terms of this system that we are working on. We are looking at the cooperation of pigeon pea and cowpea for soil fertility management.
Due to climate change, there are so many challenges that we are facing as a country, of which one of them is the pests and diseases. As an entomologist, I will look at the effectiveness of the entomopathogens. These entomopathogens are pathogens that do kill or disable the pests like the foaming.
In line with the university's requirements, Students are implementing trials under the Sorghum Productivity Improvement sub-project for their thesis within the Climate Smart Agriculture platforms at Chinguluwe Extension Planning Area, EPA, and Chitala Agricultural Research Station, Salima District, Lunzu EPA, and Vumbwe Agricultural Research Station, Blantyre and Tiolo districts, respectively. One such beneficiary is Matilda Nyengo Mjeseni, who is doing efficacy of botanical for the control of diseases in sorghum legume intercropping system at the Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, Luana.
Currently, the world is facing the climate change challenge, and this has exacerbated the influence of diseases. So, as a pathologist, here I'm trying to develop techniques which can control the diseases of sorghum, which is a sorghum legume intercropping system. In this case, we are trying to develop techniques whereby we are going to use botanicals to control the diseases that affect sorghum, which affect yield and may lead to 100% loss. So we'll develop techniques using the local botanicals whereby farmers can easily access them.
In issues concerning climate change, we are promoting what we call integrated soil fertility management, especially in sorghum, because sorghum is growing in marginal soils where the soils are degraded. We are going to take samples and look at the microlyzer and how it solubilizes some of the nutrients in the soil and how it influences the uptake by the plant itself.
On the other hand, Luana Deputy Head of Crop and Sciences Department, Dr. Keston Njira, says there is need for deliberate policies to help in information dissemination about the crop. Njira believes that this is crucial in the implementation and attainment of one of the project's goals and aspirations, which is developing a platform that includes researchers, educators, students, and agricultural stakeholders who engaged in feedback and receive outreach for adopting new proven climate-smart agriculture technologies.
The idea is like trying to check if we can improve yields of sorghum by adding a bit of fertilizer, but also a bit of organic resources. So, and enhancing nutrient use efficiency, and so doing it can reduce the costs which farmers incur in order to attain the same level of yield. So if that research can have good outcomes, then that can be encouraging for farmers who want to go into sorghum production.
Associate Professor of Development and Resource Economics, who is also Luana's Director of Research and Outreach, Samson Pirilanazo Katengeza, says the program is in line with the university's mission of going beyond theoretical work so as to give the students the much-needed practical skills. Katengeza challenges that the development will help enhance research in sustainable climate-smart agriculture innovation and adoption of pathways, linking partnerships between educational and research institutions that develop scientific knowledge disseminated through conferences and academic journals. The project's lead scientist, Dr. Austin Piri, challenges farmers to grow drought-resistant crops like sorghum, which can help in mitigating effects of climate change.
Nationally, the average grain yield on record is at about 600 kilograms of sorghum grain per hectare. Yet we have sorghum varieties in the country that under proper management, we can realize grain yield of up to 3 tons per hectare and even more. And some, can produce even up to 6 tons or 8 tons per hectare of sorghum grain. And so this is a huge yield gap that requires, to be addressed so that we are able to match with, the yield potential of the sorghum crop. And looking at this gap, certainly farmers have been losing a lot in the areas where sorghum is being produced.
One area where the project is bearing fruits is Chinguluwe Extension Planning Area in Salima, where chances of increasing production are very high, as many farmers regard it as their major crop. Mrs. Alice Kafunda is Chinguluwe EPA Agriculture Extension Development Coordinator. Kafunda attributes the high yield potential to new techniques, including crop rotation and manure application, which are helping farmers to realize better yields.
Farmers are very much interested in growing sorghum. Why? Because in the past seasons, they have been contact farming with other stakeholders like ICRISAT. We also had the MDRP project, which was also encouraging farmers to grow sorghum. Also, we had Chibuku, which is contracting farmers with Grain and Legume Association each and every year since 2011.
Traditional ways of cultivating sorghum remains one of the major setbacks to improve yields. One of the farmers in the area, 62-year-old Master Matibu, says the magic behind the double legume intercropping coupled with rotational farming has increased the yield.
Ngamba sizibwerekana kwenikweni mapira amabereka kakhale kuli ngamba and mapira asosafuna fertilizer ochuluka alibenso matenda chifukwa chimenechi timapezamo kuti muli chakudya ndithu kuti kwina chimanga ukhoza kulephera kukolola koma mapira umapezeka kuti wakolola mochulukirapo ndithu.
Atusiyanitsa ifeti mmene timalimira mbuyo musinanga timalima mbewu zina chimanga mtedza sitimadziwa kuti kululima mapira wabwino pindulitsa ngati umenewo koma utabwera nkulandira sitidanyinyirike tidaulandira nkulima tidaona zoti takolola zinthu zochuluka komanso mapira amapilira kudzuwa kusiyana ndi chimanga ndati ndaona zoti ndi zinthu zabwino ndithu ifa ngati kumbali ya chilala ndi wopilira ukhoza kukolola ngakhale vule takhala zoti aleka mufulumira.
The impact of climatic change requires solutions, including growing drought-tolerant crops like sorghum. However, rigorous research has to be conducted to maximize sorghum yields in the country. This is what is done at Chitala Research Station in Salima district. Trials are carried out on 10 by 20 meter plots to enable farmers to appreciate which technology is suitable and cost-effective for optimal yields per hectare. Noel Chikonda is Senior Research Officer and the Farm Manager.
This project started in 2020, and in that project, first year we had 7 treatments comprising of sorghum, pigeon pea, and cowpea. So pigeon pea, cowpea, and in that year, after we harvested everything, we did incorporation the biomass in the soil. And in 2021, after the rain came, we planted the whole field with sorghum in order to apply different rates of fertilizer. So in 2022, we also did a rotation where we planted legumes, cowpea, pigeon pea, and sorghum. And we also did the same. We incorporated the biomass into the soil so that we see the difference after when we plant the sorghum only this year.
Chikonda further says there's need to do away with the mindset that sorghum is a grass and does not require any external macronutrients as one way of helping farmers realize optimal yields.
Applying of organic or inorganic manure, our soil will be depleted. So we think of that farmers at least they can even integrate with legumes so that our soils should be rich in nutrients.
The one-time fellowship award winner by the African Women in Agricultural Research and Development, who is also lead scientist, Dr. Austin Piri, says slowly farmers are realizing that crop rotation and intercropping are greatly assisting in the treatment of the crop and the soil as one way of increasing yield per hectare.
We are doing double legume intercropping as well as involving rotations because when we plant 2 legumes in one plot, we are increasing the yield of biomass from the legumes. And by the way, legumes make their own nitrogen, and this is a cheap source of nitrogen. And so if we are able to produce more biomass from a unit of land and then incorporate that biomass into the soil, thereby retaining the nitrogen back to the soil, we are improving soil fertility. And that's the essence of intercropping these 2 legumes. But also when we are doing the rotations is for us to make use of the nitrogen that we are putting back into the soil by bringing in a cereal crop like sorghum. Sorghum is a cereal crop, and so when we bring it, we know that it's going to tap into the soil and then make use of the nitrogen that we have incorporated into the soil.
The southern part of Malawi experienced heavy rainfall due to effects of Cyclone Freddy, leading to leaching in most of the districts. One of them is Mponda village under Lunzu extension area in Blantyre, where Duncan Mpotola is a sorghum farmer. Mpotola says despite his farming calendar being affected by the heavy rains as a result of the cyclone, he is grateful that the crop has been resistant and he is expecting better yields this year.
Mapira chaka chino mene avutiramu samakhala chonchi pama amakhala ndima kuti inokulowa ndiye kuti osaoneka ya koma chifukwa cha nyengo kusintha kwa nyengo akati kusintha kwa nyengo ndizoona nthawi zina imabwera mvula kwambiri nthawi zina mvula osabwera yokwanira.
The field of Davy Ngunguza of Wayo village under Lunzu extension planning area in the same district is affected by 2 major challenges. Communities are still practicing traditional methods of farming and also planting local varieties. Although the crop is also affected by striker, which is a parasite plant surviving on a host plant, Ngunguza says the crop outlook is good as the research is proving a success to plants not affected by the parasite.
Ulimi umenewo chaka chino ndi chachitatu kulima. Ulimi umenewo ndi wabwino kwambiri. Timatha kusiyanitsako ndi alokolo. Chifukwa chakuti mapira amenewa amafulumira kucha nsanga komanso kumbali ya mvula ikakhala yavuta amakuzanso chita bwino kwambiri. Udzu watikhudza chidakanga kuti ndi chimanga sikuti dakatulapo kanthu chifukwa cha udzu umene ukuoneka ngati no kaufitiyo. Komani chifukwa yoti mapira waso ndithu komabe zili bwino ndithu.
Agriculture Extension Development Officer for Ngonga section under Lunzu Extension Planning Area in Blantyre, Hilda Chiwandira, says the project has come as a solution to such challenges.
At the beginning, it was a good weather that the crop stand was good in most of the crops, especially sorghum and cowpeas. But when they come the weather of Cyclone Freddy, it changed the crops in the field. Some because like sorghum, it was submerged by heavy rains, and this affected the crop stand. Taking into account the project, the protocols we are following of improving the nutrients in the soil, we intercrop pigeon peas and cowpeas together. So this shifting of the plot from sorghum to cowpeas or pigeon peas, the soil is improved.
Assistant Agriculture Extension Development Officer for Lunzu Extension Planning Area, Christopher Midian, says despite the adverse effects of climate change, including the problem of striker, sorghum yields are improving each growing season.
Yeah, I would say that for this year as compared to last year when we had dry spell, we can say a bit that this year still expect a bit increase despite the attack by witchweed, just because last year we experienced the dry spell, which impacted on the plant population as well as production.
Lead research scientist Dr. Austin Piri admits that the effects of leaching and striker are evident on the crop productivity in the area, and intercropping is helping to deal with the challenges.
One of the issues that we are battling with on this particular field is the incidence of striker. Striker is a very noxious weed. It feeds from the nutrients that the crop, the sorghum crop, is trying to take into itself to utilize, because the roots of striker attach themselves to the roots of the crop, and so they intercept the uptake of the nutrients, and so that starves in the process the principal crop that we're working on, and this is sorghum. And so this is one of the issues that is of concern on this particular field, apart from soil fertility factors, which we are trying to address by way of bringing in the intercrop of 2 legumes in rotation, of course, with the sorghum.
The project involves 4 countries, including Norway at the Norwegian University, Kenya at Maseno University, Uganda at Makerere University, and in Malawi, it is under the Department of Agriculture Research Services in collaboration with the Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, Luana. Principal investigator expressed hope with what is happening in most of its trail centers and the farmers' reception.
We are witnessing the effect of climate variability across the country, but also the effect of the environment, not forgetting the soil itself. These factors are having a profound impact on the performance of our trials. In Salima, that is in central Malawi, we have witnessed a different crop outlook compared to what we are witnessing here in southern Malawi. That is attributable to soil factors, but also weather pattern. Just as it is the case here, the same factors are at play. Yeah, so we have to develop, in a way, location-specific management practices so that we are able to address specific constraints that are present in particular environments. And this is a big takeaway from what we have observed in this particular cropping season.
Sorghum productivity improvement through pigeon pea, cowpea intercrop sorghum rotation, formerly funded by the African Plant Nutrition Institute through the Phosphorus Fellowship, is one of sub-projects implemented in Malawi under NORPART project funded by HK DARP, previously called DIKU in Norway. With what is happening in most parts of the country, including Salima, chances are very high of attaining the main project's objective, which is to improve the management of phosphorus and nitrogen under smallholder farms for increased and sustainable sorghum productivity in Malawi with the changing climate. Currently, the project is implemented by the Department of Agri-Research Services in partnership with Luana and is in the 3rd year of implementation. DARS recruited 4 staffs to undergo training at master's and PhD levels at Luana under the support of the NORPART project.